Hello everyone, and welcome to this edition of Your Arlington Dollar. We are joined here in the studio again by Dean Carman and Annie LaCourt. Dean, as you'll remember, is a Finance Committee member, and Annie is a former Board of Selectmen. More importantly for our today's discussion, both are town meeting members. So welcome back, and thanks for being here, guys. We do want to spend the balance of today's conversation, I think, talking about what happened at last night's special town meeting.
So this was one of the best town meetings I've ever attended. It was very efficient, and the discussions were very thoughtful and factual, and the decisions were made by overwhelming majorities in town meeting. It was really a moment to be proud of for the form of government that Arlington has. So we had two articles before us relating to rebuilding the Stratton School, and this was really important. This is the last of the 7 elementary schools that in the late 90s and in 2000 we promised the town we would rebuild or renovate. It's been a long struggle to get to the point where we had a plan for how we were going to provide equity at Stratton in terms of a renovation, and we had 2 articles before us last night to do that. One to pay for modular classroom space so that the students at Stratton would have some place to go to school while we renovate the rest of their building, and the other was to vote the capital funding to renovate the rest of their building. Now we were able to put together a plan for the Stratton, and it was a great community engagement process. The parents were involved in deciding what was the priorities for renovation of the building. We're not knocking the whole building down, but we're making, major renovations to the interior.
In addition to Stratton, there were a couple of other things on the table. I know you're going to talk about Minuteman, Dean, but let me ask you first, what's the third of the things that was decided yesterday?
The third of the things decided yesterday was the 2 modular additions, at Thompson School. So as we had talked about in our last Your Arlington Dollar segment, the Thompson School is over capacity right now due to
even though we'll just remind our viewers that
it was
this
rebuilt.
Is the most recent rebuild.
Yep, it has experienced rapid enrollment growth over the last 5 years, which exceeded anybody's expectations, puts the school in a position where they're at what I like to refer to as -1 classrooms, so they need 1 more classroom than the current year than they have. And so something had to be done because as the 2 classrooms of 5th graders leave, we're expecting 4 classrooms of kindergartners to arrive next year. So we're going to go into a larger deficit if we do nothing. And so what adding 2 modules will do next year is it will allow the sections to remain at a reasonable class size. If we had done nothing last night, we would have seen that pattern of 30 kids in a class at Thompson be even worse next year. So this is hopefully, through a series of measures, going to bring class sizes down for 1 year at Thompson. Does not fix the problem long term.
If you have something more to say on Thompson, Dean, that's fine. Otherwise, I would invite you to bring us up to date on what's going on with
Minuteman, as a lot of people know and some people will be hearing, has been a long challenge and struggle for the town of Arlington. It is a great school. I get up on the floor of town meeting every year and talk about how it's a great school. But structurally, the way the regional agreement works, the way the funding works, just the mechanics of the school, it just was on a bad footing. We put that new regional agreement before town meeting last night, and they overwhelmingly supported a change to the regional agreement, which we're hoping will pass all 16 communities by March 1st, and then we will move to the next phase, which is building a school.
The regional agreement that Dean is talking about gives us leverage in a couple of areas. So one thing is that it creates a path for a town to withdraw from the Minuteman agreement that doesn't require the vote of all 16 towns, positive vote to let you go, essentially. It gives us weighted voting on the school committee so that Arlington will now have a percentage of the decision-making power that represents the number of students in the school, okay? And it changes the formula by which capital costs will be distributed, and those changes are in our favor and include distributing some of those capital costs to tuitions for non-member students from non-member communities.
We thank Annie LaCourt and Dean Carman for joining us again for another elucidating conversation. And we welcome you back to our next segment of Arlington Dollar at the appropriate time. For Your Arlington Dollar, I'm James Milan. Thanks for joining us.